Hello patron and welcome back to my life. Writer Wednesday, where I talk about the art and the business of writing and tell you how I do what I do as an indie author. This week's question comes from Rhea, who wants to know any advice or tips I may have on self-editing. Okay, so I want to be very loud and very clear about this up front. This video is not an endorsement of the practice of only self-editing your book before you publish and try to sell it. I've spoken about this before. I did this back in my early days. It was a huge mistake. It hampered my career, though it didn't entirely kill it, and it created a bad experience for readers, which is the worst thing. Don't only self-edit your book before you go to publish. This is a bad thing. You should not do it. And if you do it, you are bad and you should feel bad. All right, all of that being very clearly said, every author does need to self-edit. It doesn't matter if you're indie or going for traditional, you have to self-edit your book as much as possible. Obviously, if you're trying to go the traditional route, you need to edit your book as well as you possibly can before you submit it to publishers or agents or whoever. But indies need to self-edit as well. Please do not be the indie author who just bangs out a first draft and then sends it immediately to the copy editor. Just do not do that. This is not as bad as like not having an email list, but it is a thing that some indies do that annoys me, and then they like wonder why their books don't do better. Editors cannot save a bad book. Not even a full editing team with a developmental editor, a line editor, a copy editor, and multiple proofreaders. All those people are there to hone your book into something better than it is when you put it in their hands. If you give them a book that is 20% quality and then each of them adds another 10%, then you end up with a 50% book. But if you work your ass off to turn it into a book that's maybe 60%, which is probably as best you can possibly expect on your own, then they add their magic to it and you can get it up into the 90+%, which is the only percentage of book that you should publish. But their job is not to take a 20% book into that 90%. They are not supposed to elastically compensate for the lack of care you yourself have put into your book. You are the one who has the vision of your book in your head. No one else has that, and your job is to create the best articulation of that vision that you possibly can. The better your book is when you're done with it, the better it will be after it's been edited, period. End of story. Okay, so how do you self-edit? Well, as I often say on this channel, self-awareness is the highest of human virtues. You have to learn what you consistently do wrong, and then you have to work to expunge those bad habits from your writing. There's only two ways to learn what you do wrong as a writer. The first is writing a lot and then reading back your own writing. This works best if you have a long delay between writing it and reading it. Of course, you can come back to it with fresh eyes. Also, the more you read of other people's work, the better you will be at this. The more examples you see of people doing it right, the more easily you will be able to see the ways in which you do it wrong. Second way of identifying your own flaws as a writer is by asking for advice. Other people can always see what you're doing wrong better than you can. It's just a fact. When you learn from someone else about a flaw in your work, you should add that to a list of things to watch out for in the future. A physical list is good. I have a file saved on my computer for like crap to watch out for, but even just like a mental checklist can be very helpful. So here's an example from my own experience. I submitted the first chapter of Nightblade way back in the day to a podcast called Writership, and the hosts read the submitted writing sample and they give a critique to the author of their writing. And there, for the first time, after already writing and publishing for years, mind you, I learned that I have a terrible tendency to echo words. I'll use the same word over and over again in very close proximity in like a concentrated burst. And obviously not words like the either, like slightly unusual words that I don't use all the time in my writing, but then in one page, I'll use it 3 times. Like I'm doing a reading pass on Weremage right now, and just flipping through to one thing that I caught, I had the same character say, "It is as though," twice in one paragraph, and not like intentionally echoing himself. He just said it twice, and it's really weird and awkward. But before I was told that, I didn't realize it was a thing that I do. But now I know. So now when I am editing my own work before sending it to my editor, I constantly look for echo words. I'm very well aware of it. I've trained myself to see it in my own writing. Because I still write echo words in my first draft. In the first draft, I'm concentrated on getting to the end of the book as quickly as possible, and I just put words down. It's in editing that you can go through and find the things that you're bad at. Maybe one day I'll learn to use less echo words in my first drafts, but as as long as I catch it in editing, it's fine. But there's a million things like that that I do, and I've learned about them from repetition, from hearing about them from my editors and from beta readers and all that sort of stuff, and I just add them to the list. If I left those things to be fixed by my editor, I would just be wasting their time, and therefore my money, on removing things that I should have already eliminated from the book. And honestly, that's just douchey, but also, if they are focused on the things that I should be removing from the book anyway, they cannot then enhance the book. Like, they have a limited amount of time and attention that they can spend. So if they're fixing stuff that I should have fixed already, they aren't seeing other things. They aren't seeing ways. They have to spend so much time removing errors that they're not able to add quality. And good editors add quality. An editor's job should be to add quality to your book, not to remove errors that you should have caught in the first place. Although there will always be errors for them to remove. But you get the idea. So you have to find people who will give you honest feedback. As I said last week, early readers should not enjoy the early drafts of your book, and you have to listen to what they say, and if it's accurate. Some people will say things that you don't necessarily agree with or you don't want to change, but keep a list of those things. And when you are editing your book, check the list. Like, hey, did I look for echo words? Did I put commas in the right place? A lot of people don't know where commas go and everything. So learn the rules, and you don't worry about it on your first draft, but fix it in editing. And again, like I've said in previous Writer Wednesday videos, if you want me to check out some of your writing and offer my advice about things to watch out for when you're self-editing, consider me at your disposal. That is not a blanket promise to read all of your manuscripts and read everything that you write and everything like that. But if you are like, hey, can you check this out and tell me if there's a thing that I can watch out for, I'll read a chapter or two, or like as much as I need to, in order to give you advice on like, hey, here's some things that you should try to improve. Self-editing is a very important part of the craft for any author, and it's something that you only learn how to do well with a lot of time and a lot of work. And that is not a very sexy answer, but it is a true one. And that is it for this week's video. Thank you to Rhea for the awesome question. And remember, if you have something that you want me to talk about in the Writer Wednesday videos, drop a comment on Patreon or on YouTube. This video series is here to help you. So let me know what you need. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you as always for your incredible support, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye!